There is a version of you that needs to die. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Not when the timing feels right. Tonight. You know exactly which version I'm talking about. The one that hits snooze 4 times and calls it rest. The one that scrolls for 2 hours and calls it relaxing. The one that avoids hard conversations, hard truths, and hard work, and then wonders why nothing ever changes. That version of you has been running your life for too long. And somewhere deep inside, you already know it. You feel it at 3 in the morning when you can't sleep. That pressure in your chest that whispers you are meant for more than this. That restless ache that tells you the life you're living doesn't match the person you're capable of becoming. That ache is not anxiety. It's your future self trying to pull you forward. And the only thing standing between you and that person is the old you. The comfortable you. The version of you that would rather stay safe and stuck than risk everything to become who you're supposed to be. 2,000 years ago, the Stoic philosophers understood something that most people today still haven't figured out. You cannot build a new life on a broken foundation. You cannot add good habits on top of destructive ones and expect transformation. You cannot become the person you want to be while protecting the person you've been. Something has to be destroyed first. Seneca, one of Rome's greatest philosophers, wrote that we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. And the greatest suffering of all is the gap between who you are and who you know you could be. That gap doesn't close on its own. You close it. Through decisions. Through discipline. Through the deliberate destruction of everything that keeps you small. Most people never close that gap. Not because they can't, but because they keep protecting the very version of themselves that created the gap in the first place. They rearrange the furniture in a burning house and call it progress. Real progress is letting the house burn and building something stronger from the ashes. Tonight, we're going to walk through 7 truths the Stoics taught about killing your old self and rebuilding from nothing. These are not gentle ideas. They are not comfortable. They are not designed to make you feel good in this moment. They are designed to set you free. And if you're hearing this right now, at this hour, in this state of mind, it's because some part of you is ready. Ready to stop pretending. Ready to stop negotiating with your old habits. Ready to let the old you die so the real you can finally stand up. Let's begin. Number 1. The truth you only find in silence. You cannot fix a life you refuse to examine. And you cannot examine your life while you're drowning in noise. Most people have not spent a single honest hour alone with their own thoughts in years. Think about that. Years. Every waking moment is filled with something. Notifications, music, conversations, content, anything to avoid the silence. And they avoid the silence because silence is where the truth lives. The truth about who you actually are when no one is watching. The truth about the habits that are quietly destroying your potential. The truth about the life you've settled for versus the life you actually want. Epictetus, the Stoic who was born a slave, said that no man is free who is not master of himself. But how can you master yourself if you don't even know yourself? And how can you know yourself if you never sit still long enough to look? Silence is a mirror, and most people are terrified of what they'll see in it. When you get quiet, truly quiet, the performance ends. You stop being the version of yourself that your friends expect. You stop being the version your family is comfortable with. You stop performing confidence you don't feel, happiness you haven't earned, and control you don't have. In the silence, you meet the real you. The one who's exhausted from pretending. The one who knows exactly what needs to change but has been too afraid to admit it. This is painful. The Stoics never said self-knowledge was comfortable. They said it was necessary. Most people don't realize how much of their identity is built on noise rather than intention. You act a certain way because others expect it. Number 2, your old habits must die first. You cannot build a new life while still feeding the behaviors that destroyed the old one. Most people try to change by adding. They add a new morning routine. They add a gym membership. They add affirmations and goals and vision boards. And then they wonder why nothing sticks. Nothing sticks because they never removed anything. They stacked new habits on top of old destruction and hoped for the best. The Stoics understood that before you can create, you must destroy. Before you build the new, you must demolish the old. Not negotiate with it. Not manage it. Destroy it. Your old habits are not just behaviors. They are an identity. The way you react when you're stressed. The excuses you repeat when you fail. The distractions you reach for when the work gets hard. The people you call when you want permission to quit. All of it is the architecture of your old self. And as long as that architecture stands, the new you has nowhere to live. Seneca was one of the wealthiest men in Rome. He had everything the old version of himself could want. Luxury, power, influence. And yet he voluntarily practiced poverty. He would sleep on a hard floor, eat the simplest food, wear rough clothing for days at a time. Not because he had to, but because he understood that comfort is a cage. And the only way to escape a cage is to stop feeding the creature inside it. He told his friend Lucilius to set aside certain days to practice having almost nothing. To sleep on a thin mat. To eat bread and water. To look poverty in the face and ask yourself, is this what I was so afraid of? Because that's what your old habits really are. Fear wearing a mask. Fear of discomfort disguised as routine. Fear of failure disguised as procrastination. Fear of rejection disguised as not trying. Most people don't change because they try to negotiate with their old habits. They say they'll cut back, try harder, be better next week. But destruction requires precision, not negotiation. You cannot bargain with procrastination. You cannot reason with self-doubt. You cannot part-time your way out of a full-time problem. You cut them. Cleanly. Decisively. The way a surgeon removes a tumor. Not with hesitation, but with precision and the knowledge that leaving it in place will kill you slowly. Identify the 3 habits that do the most damage. You already know what they are. You've known for months, maybe years. The late nights wasted on nothing. The conversations that drain you. The substances, the scrolling, the avoidance rituals that eat your time and leave you empty. These are not harmless. These are the chains your old self uses to keep you locked in place. There is a point where keeping your old patterns becomes more painful than letting them die. And when that moment arrives, you will finally understand what the Stoics meant by living intentionally. You stop acting out of impulse and start acting out of purpose. You stop letting emotions steer you and begin choosing the behaviors aligned with your future. Kill them first, before you try to build anything new. Before you write a single goal or make a single plan. Because you cannot rebuild yourself on a foundation you refuse to tear down. And once you remove the patterns that no longer serve you, you create the space, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, for a stronger, wiser, more disciplined version of yourself to emerge. This destruction is not loss. It is liberation. Number 3. Discomfort is the price of becoming. Everyone wants transformation. Almost no one wants what transformation actually costs. They want the confidence without the rejection. The strength without the struggle. The discipline without a single uncomfortable morning. But the Stoics were brutally clear about this. The version of you that avoids discomfort is the version of you that never changes. Your old self was built in comfort. Think about that. Every weakness you carry, every limitation you accept, every excuse you repeat was forged in the safety of the easy path. Comfort taught you to avoid hard conversations. Comfort taught you to choose entertainment over effort. Comfort taught you to protect your ego instead of expanding your capacity. If comfort built the old you, then discomfort is the only material that can build the new one. The Stoics didn't just tolerate discomfort. They practiced it deliberately. Cold exposure, fasting, sleeping on hard ground, walking when they could ride. Not because they enjoyed suffering, but because they understood that a person who cannot endure discomfort is a slave to circumstance. Epictetus, who was born a slave and lived with a permanent limp from the abuse he endured, taught his students that difficulty is what wakes up the genius inside you. That every hardship is a training ground for your character. He didn't say this from a place of theory. He said it from a life of real suffering. His master once twisted his leg until it broke. Epictetus reportedly said calmly, "You will break it." And when the leg snapped, he simply said, "I told you so." That is a man who understood that pain is not the enemy. Weakness in the face of pain is the enemy. And he transformed that suffering into wisdom that has outlasted empires. Discomfort is not punishment. It is proof that you are entering territory your old self was too afraid to explore. When you feel resistance, that's the boundary of who you used to be. When you feel the urge to quit, that's the old you fighting for survival. When every part of your mind screams to go back to what's familiar, that is the exact moment growth is happening. Transformation demands that you endure the resistance you once tried to escape. You cannot develop discipline without doing things you don't want to do. You cannot build emotional strength without facing emotions you fear. You cannot gain clarity without walking through confusion. These uncomfortable moments form the muscle of your new identity. Without them, change remains a wish instead of a reality. You don't get to choose a painless path to a powerful life. That path doesn't exist. What you do get to choose is which pain you carry. The pain of discipline or the pain of regret. The pain of growth or the pain of staying exactly where you are for another year, for another decade, for the rest of your life. Your comfort zone is where the old you survives. Step outside of it and the old you begins to die. Stay outside of it long enough and the new you takes its place. Every time you choose discomfort over ease, you're casting a vote for the person you are becoming, not the person you used to be. Number 4. Discipline will save you. Motivation won't. Stop waiting to feel motivated. Motivation is not coming to rescue you. Motivation is an emotion. It rises when life feels exciting and collapses the moment things get hard. If you build your transformation on motivation, you will quit the first week the excitement fades. And it always fades. The Stoics never talked about motivation. Not once. They talked about duty, discipline, practice, repetition. Because they understood that feelings are weather. They change by the hour. And you cannot build a life on weather. Discipline is different. Discipline doesn't care how you feel when the alarm goes off. It doesn't care if you're tired, uninspired, or afraid. Discipline says you made a commitment, and you will honor it regardless of your emotional state. When you rely on motivation, you become a slave to your emotional weather. When you rely on discipline, you become the architect of your reality. Marcus Aurelius ruled the Roman Empire during plague, war, and betrayal. 15 years on the northern frontier, fighting Germanic tribes while his empire rotted from within. His generals betrayed him. Plague killed millions of his people. There were mornings he didn't want to get out of bed. He wrote about it. He told himself that the warmth of the covers was not what he was made for, that he was made for work, for action, for the purpose that his position demanded. He wrote, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. What do I have to complain of if I'm going to do what I was born for, the things I was brought into the world to do?" He didn't wait to feel like an emperor. He got up and did the work of one. Day after day. Year after year. For 2 decades. That is discipline. Not a burst of energy. Not a highlight reel moment. A quiet, relentless commitment to doing what must be done, whether you feel like it or not. Motivation gives you a spark. Discipline gives you a path. Motivation might get you started for a day. Discipline keeps you consistent for a lifetime. And only one of them will still be there on the dark days when nothing feels worth the effort. Here is what discipline actually looks like. Waking up early when the bed pulls you back. Doing the hardest task first, before your mind can negotiate its way out. Choosing focus over distraction. Choosing the gym over the couch. Choosing the book over the screen. Choosing growth again and again until it becomes who you are. Every disciplined action is a vote for your future self. A small declaration that you refuse to be the person you were yesterday. And over time, something shifts. You stop forcing yourself. The discipline becomes identity. You don't have to fight yourself to do the right thing anymore because the right thing is simply what you do. Discipline is not punishment. It's freedom. Freedom from procrastination. Freedom from excuses. Freedom from the inconsistent moods that once controlled your life. That is how the new you is built. Not in a flash of inspiration, but in the quiet repetition of 1,000 small choices that no one sees. Number 5. Guard the world you're building. You cannot become a new person while living in the environment that created the old one. Your surroundings shape you in ways you don't even notice. The people you talk to become the thoughts you think. The content you consume becomes the beliefs you hold. The energy of your daily routine becomes the energy of your entire life. If your environment is filled with distraction, negativity, and chaos, it will drag you back into old patterns no matter how strong your willpower is. Epictetus taught his students to be ruthless about what they allowed into their minds. He compared the mind to a vessel of water. If you pour clean water into a vessel full of mud, all you get is more mud. You have to empty the vessel first. This is not abstract philosophy. This is practical survival for anyone trying to rebuild themselves. Look at your phone. What are you feeding your mind before sleep? What's the first thing you see when you wake up? The accounts you follow, the group chats you sit in, the news you absorb, all of it is programming your identity whether you realize it or not. Look at your physical space. A cluttered room produces a cluttered mind. A chaotic environment reinforces chaotic behavior. Your space should reflect who you're becoming, not who you used to be. Seneca warned against spending time with crowds and people who reinforce your worst instincts. He wrote to Lucilius, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you. Welcome those who you are capable of improving." The process is a mutual one. Men learn as they teach. Your environment is either reinforcing your growth or reinforcing your destruction. There is no neutral ground. Some rooms in your life are incompatible with your future. There are places where your old habits thrive, where your old identity feels comfortable, where the old you is constantly invited back. You know these places. You know these situations. Guard the world you're building the way you'd guard a newborn. Because that's what your new self is. Fragile, vulnerable, easily destroyed by the wrong influence at the wrong time. Protect your environment, and it will protect the person you're becoming. Neglect it, and the gravity of your past will pull you right back to where you started. Number 6. Some people won't survive your evolution. This is the one that hurts. Not everyone is meant to walk with you into the next chapter of your life. Some people were meant for a season, not a lifetime. And the moment you begin to change, you'll find out exactly who belongs to your past and who belongs to your future. You'll feel it in conversations that no longer resonate, in friendships that drain you instead of strengthen you, in the quiet realization that you've grown while the people around you have stayed exactly the same. The Stoics taught that life is a process of constant unfolding. And as you evolve, your circle must evolve with you. But not everyone will understand this. Some people will take your growth personally. They'll call your boundaries rejection. They'll call your ambition arrogance. They'll call your silence judgment. The truth is simpler. You are outgrowing a dynamic that no longer supports the person you're becoming. When Seneca chose philosophy over political games, he lost friends. People who valued him for his influence suddenly had no use for a man who cared more about wisdom than power. When he was exiled to the island of Corsica, most of Rome forgot about him. The people who had surrounded him in his days of wealth and status vanished. But Seneca used that exile to write some of the most important philosophical works in human history. Alone. Abandoned by the people he thought were his friends. And he emerged from exile not bitter, but wiser. He wrote about it with clear eyes. The people who leave when you change were only there for the version of you that served them. This is not cruelty. This is clarity. Some people are attached to your limitations because your limitations make them feel safe. Your insecurities made them comfortable. Your predictability made them confident. Your lack of boundaries made their lives easier. And the moment you start growing, start saying no, start choosing yourself, start demanding more from life, they feel threatened. They don't want the new you. They want the old you. Because the old you asked for less, expected less, tolerated more. That version of you is dying now. And you don't owe anyone an apology for it. You will feel guilt because you've been conditioned to believe that loyalty means staying the same, that growing means abandoning, that wanting more is somehow selfish. But the Stoics taught that loyalty to your growth must come before loyalty to anyone else's expectations. You owe your old environment nothing. Not an apology. Not an explanation. Not a justification for wanting more. Some people liked the old you because the old you stayed small, agreeable, predictable. They preferred the version of you who never challenged them, never outperformed them, never made them question their own choices. But that version is gone now. And you cannot resurrect it just to make others comfortable. Outgrowing people does not mean you look down on them. It means you stop shrinking yourself to match them. You're not abandoning them. You are returning to yourself. You're not rejecting them. You are rejecting the behaviors and cycles that kept you stagnant. You can love someone and still walk away. You can care about someone and still set boundaries. You can remember the good times and still recognize the relationship has reached its limit. Release with grace. Walk away with dignity. But never shrink yourself again just to preserve someone else's comfort. The moment you stop apologizing for your evolution is the moment your power returns. You stop explaining why you don't tolerate disrespect. You stop defending your boundaries. You stop justifying your dreams. You stop minimizing your ambition. There will always be people who say you've changed. Let them. Change is the point. Evolution is the point. Distance is the point. As you rise, you will meet different people. People who speak the language of growth. People who challenge you instead of drain you. People who celebrate your evolution instead of fearing it. The more you align with your future, the more your world aligns with you. Outgrowing people is not a loss. It is preparation. Preparation for clearer thinking. Preparation for deeper self-respect. Preparation for relationships that match the person you are becoming. Your future requires a different version of you, and that version will attract different people. The old you is gone, and the people who are meant for your growth will meet you on the way up. Number 7. You must choose the new you every single day. Transformation is not a one-time event. It is not a breakthrough moment. It is not a resolution you make on January 1st and forget by February. Transformation is a daily choice, a repeated decision, 1,000 small moments where you choose the new behavior over the old one until the new behavior becomes who you are. Marcus Aurelius didn't write his meditations once. He wrote them every night. The same principles, the same reminders, the same battle against his own weaknesses, fought again and again across decades. He reminded himself to be patient when he wanted to rage. He reminded himself to be humble when the world called him a god. He reminded himself to face death with dignity when plague and war surrounded him. He didn't transform once and coast. He transformed daily. And that's why his words still hit like a hammer 2,000 years later. The old you doesn't disappear in one dramatic moment. It dies gradually. Every time you resist an old impulse, you weaken it. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you strengthen the new you. Every time you act with intention instead of reaction, you step further into your future self. But there will be days when you stumble. Days when the old patterns pull you back. Days when giving up seems easier than pressing forward. The Stoics had a practice for this. They called it returning to the work. Not perfection. Practice. You will fail some days. That is not the question. The question is whether you get back up and choose again. Whether you wake up tomorrow and cast another vote for the person you're becoming, even though you slipped today. Epictetus taught that it's not what happens to you that matters. It's what you do next. A bad day doesn't erase your progress. Only quitting does. Stop waiting for a perfect moment to become the person you want to be. There is no perfect moment. There is only today. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Choose the new you. Again. And again. And again. Until there's nothing left of the old one." Rebirth is not a destination you reach. It is a practice you return to. And as long as you keep choosing the higher version of yourself, even imperfectly, even on the hard days, you're already rising. The old you had to break for the new you to rise. Every moment of silence you endured, every painful truth you confronted, every habit you killed, every uncomfortable step you forced yourself to take, every relationship you released, every morning you chose discipline when everything inside you screamed for comfort. All of it was necessary. All of it was preparation. The Stoics understood that transformation is never accidental. It is intentional, painful, and deeply personal. No one can do it for you. No book, no video, no philosophy will save you unless you decide to save yourself. But you're still here. You're still listening. And that tells me something about you. It tells me the old you is already losing its grip. It tells me that somewhere inside, the new you is already standing up, already demanding more, already refusing to settle for the life that used to be enough. Rebuilding yourself is not about becoming someone else. It's about finally becoming who you were always supposed to be. Seneca wrote that it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a great deal of it. You've wasted enough. Today, right now, in this moment, you have the power to choose differently, to think differently, to act differently. The rebirth you're looking for is already happening inside you with every decision you make. Keep going. Your future self is waiting. And the old you? Let it rest. It served its purpose. But its time is done.